Don't come to my graduation. It'll be awkward with my ex there, she said. So I packed a bag and left. A week later, he blocked her, and she had to beg her parents for rent. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these stories. I always pictured myself as the steady one, the reliable boyfriend, the kind of man who works hard, supports his partner, and doesn't go looking for drama. For almost 4 years, that's exactly who I was. My girlfriend Emily and I met during her sophomore year of college. I was already working full-time, saving up to buy a house one day, while she was juggling classes, part-time work, and big dreams of graduating with honors. She was bright, ambitious, and she had this way of making me believe she'd go far. I wanted to be the person who helped her get there. So, I did what I thought any good boyfriend would do. When she struggled to balance rent with tuition, I stepped in and covered the shortfall. When she had late-night study sessions, I picked her up from campus so she wouldn't have to take the bus alone. I spent weekends editing her papers, bringing her coffee, encouraging her when she broke down, crying over deadlines. I didn't complain when I picked up extra shifts. I told myself it was temporary, that one day, when she had her degree, things would even out, that she'd remember how much I gave, and we'd build something solid together. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. At first, it was small things. Her phone suddenly glued to her hand, the way she tilted the screen away from me, or how she stopped inviting me to study sessions, because it's easier when I don't have distractions. She started hanging out with friends from her program I'd never heard of before. Nights out became more frequent, while our dinners together became less. When I'd ask if everything was okay, she'd brush me off with a laugh. Don't be paranoid. I'm just busy. Not everything is about you. You know, God, you act like I'm doing something wrong. I told myself it was stress. Graduation was around the corner, and she was under pressure. I remembered the girl who used to fall asleep on my chest in the middle of Netflix shows, whispering how lucky she felt to have me. I held on to that version of her, hoping the distance was temporary. But deep down, I felt it. A heaviness in my chest, an instinct that something wasn't right. Still, I pushed through. I worked late shifts to help with her rent. I showed up with flowers after her exams. I told her, I'm proud of you, every chance I got. Even when her responses were flat, a quick thanks or a distracted smile, I kept giving because that's who I was, loyal to a fault. And then came graduation. For months I'd imagined the day. Me sitting in the crowd, clapping louder than anyone else when her name was called. Standing by her side for photos, telling her how everything she worked for finally paid off. I wanted to be there for the moment I thought we'd both been building toward. I didn't know it yet, but that day would be the breaking point. About a week before graduation, I brought it up casually while we were eating dinner. So, I said, trying to sound light, "Big day is coming up. Do you know how many tickets you get? I'll take the day off. We can grab lunch after the ceremony." Emily didn't look up from her phone. She was scrolling with her thumb, the glow lighting up her face. "Yeah, about that." Something in her tone made my stomach sink. "About what?" She finally looked at me, her expression strangely rehearsed, like she'd been practicing it in her head. "I don't think it's a good idea for you to come." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. "What?" "It'll just be awkward," she said, shrugging like it was obvious. "My ex is going to be there. He and I kept in touch and he wanted to support me. I don't want drama if you two run into each other." For a second, I just stared at her, waiting for her to laugh and tell me it was a joke. "Emily, are you serious right now? I've been with you for 4 years. I helped you get through school and you don't want me at your graduation because your ex will be there." She rolled her eyes. "God, don't be so dramatic. It's just one event. Why do you have to make everything about you? About me? My voice cracked, disbelief laced in it. This is about us, Emily. It's your graduation, and I've been by your side the entire time. And now you're telling me I can't come because of him? She sighed, like she was already bored of the conversation. Look, I appreciate everything you've done for me. I do. But this is my day. I don't want to feel tension or have to explain things. It's simpler if you just don't come. Explain things to who? I asked, my chest tightening. To people who know him. To people who know us, she said, vague and dismissive. It's easier if you're not there. Honestly, you're making this way harder than it needs to be. I set my fork down, hands trembling slightly. So, let me get this straight. The guy you used to date gets to be there for your biggest milestone, but I don't? The guy who supported you for years, worked extra jobs, made sacrifices so you could even get here. I'm not invited. Emily leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. You're twisting it. You don't own my graduation. You don't get to dictate who I let be there for me. If you really loved me, you'd respect my decision. Something inside me went quiet. Then, like a switch flipped, I realized nothing I said would matter. She'd already made her choice. You're right, I said finally, my voice calm in a way that surprised even me. I don't own your graduation, and I don't dictate your choices. She smirked, thinking she'd won. Exactly. So stop trying to guilt me. I stood up, pushed my chair back, and looked at her one last time. But I also don't have to stick around when those choices make it clear where I stand in your life. Her smirk faltered. What's that supposed to mean? It means I won't make a scene, I said quietly. But you've made your priorities clear, Emily. And I've heard you. And with that, I walked out of the room, leaving her sitting at the table, stunned. That night, I packed a small bag, just clothes and essentials. I didn't want to drag it out or turn it into some screaming match. That wasn't me. I'd already said everything I needed to say. When I left the apartment, she didn't even come after me. She just sat at the table with her arms crossed, glaring like I was the unreasonable one. But the texts started almost immediately. Emily, you seriously leaving over this? Emily, it was just one day. You're being ridiculous. Emily, I told you I didn't want drama. Why are you creating it? I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, but I didn't reply. An hour later, another string came through. Emily, you're overreacting. Emily, it's my graduation, not yours. Emily, you don't get to control who supports me. If you can't handle that, maybe you're not as mature as I thought. I put my phone face down and turned it off. The silence was brutal. I lay awake in the spare room at a buddy's place, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what had just happened. 4 years together, and this was what it came down to. Her choosing her ex. No, not even choosing him. Choosing his comfort over mine. And for what? So it wouldn't be awkward. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream, to call her, to demand she explain how she could look me in the eye after everything I'd done and tell me I wasn't welcome on her biggest day. But instead, I felt this strange, heavy calm, like I'd finally seen the truth that had been creeping in for months. And now, there was no unseeing it. The next morning, another text. Emily, so you're really not going to come after everything? I typed out a dozen responses, but deleted every one. None of it mattered. I didn't owe her more explanations. When graduation day came, I went to work like normal. My coworkers asked why I wasn't at the ceremony, and I just shrugged. Didn't get a ticket, I said, keeping it simple. No point dragging them into it. But I'll admit, sitting in the break room, staring at the clock, I thought about what was happening at that very moment. Her walking across the stage, her smiling for photos, and her ex, the one she didn't want to make awkward, standing next to her. Maybe with his arm around her shoulders. That image cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Still, I stayed silent. No calls, no messages, no scenes. And when I scrolled through social media that night and saw the pictures, Emily in her cap and gown, beaming with him by her side instead of me, I felt something inside me snap, not with rage, with finality. It was over. I didn't need to tell her. I didn't need to beg her to see my worth. She'd already shown me where I ranked. So I went to the gym, pushed myself until my arms shook, and told myself this was the last night she'd take up space in my head. The week after graduation was the hardest. I thought the silence would bring me peace, but instead, it brought long nights of staring at the ceiling, playing her words over and over in my head. It'll be awkward with my ex there. I couldn't shake it. Not the dismissal in her tone, not the smug little smirk when she thought she put me in my place. I kept expecting my phone to blow up with apologies, with some desperate explanation. But instead, the only texts I got were shallow, almost mocking. Emily, I don't get why you're still sulking. Emily, it was my graduation, my choice. Emily, you're acting like a child, honestly. No apology, no regret. Just entitlement. A few days later, one of my friends who still followed her on Instagram pulled me aside. Hey man, you okay? I knew what was coming before he even said it. He showed me a photo of Emily at a bar, still in her graduation sash. Her ex's arm was around her waist, both of them grinning at the camera. The caption read, "Couldn't have done it without you." I felt like someone had sucker punched me. I muttered something about needing to get back to work and walked away before my friend could say anything else. I didn't want pity. I didn't want advice. I just wanted to disappear. That night, I went for a long drive. No destination in mind, just the hum of the engine and the quiet roads. I thought about all the nights I'd stayed up with her, helping edit her papers, the rent I'd covered when she was short, the hours I worked to make sure she could focus on school. And there she was, smiling for pictures with the guy who hadn't lifted a finger to help her. The guy who, by her own admission, had broken her heart years ago. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. For the first time, I let myself feel it. The betrayal, the humiliation, the stupidity of having believed I mattered to her. But the thing that surprised me most, I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to storm into her life and demand she pay for what she'd done. I just wanted to be free of it. So, I doubled down on the silence. I blocked her on social media, muted her texts. I threw myself into work, the gym, and late-night runs until my lungs burned. I wasn't healed, not even close. But I was moving, and that was enough. Of course, that was exactly when her tone started to change. Emily, hey, I feel like you're avoiding me. Can we talk? Emily, I didn't mean to hurt you. You know, you're just reading too much into it. Emily, it wasn't like that with him. He's just a friend. Really? I stared at those messages, my jaw tightening. A friend? Then why was he in every photo from her graduation? His hand on her like they were still a couple. Why was she writing captions that erased me entirely? But I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have things I wanted to say, but because she'd already made her choice. And choices have consequences. I just didn't realize how quickly hers were about to catch up with her. About a week later, I got the first taste of karma. I hadn't checked her social media since blocking her, but mutual friends didn't hesitate to keep me updated. One night, I got a text from my buddy with nothing but a screenshot. It was Emily's Instagram story. A picture of her wine glass on a table for two, except only one glass was filled. The caption read, "Some people never change." I almost laughed out loud. It didn't take a genius to put the pieces together. Her ex, the one she'd been so eager to cozy up with at graduation, had already started pulling away. A couple of days later, she texted me again. "Emily, hey, can we please talk? Emily, I think I made a mistake. Emily, I know I hurt you, but you don't understand what I was going through." I didn't respond. Not out of pettiness. I was past that stage. It just wasn't my problem anymore. Then one evening, as I was getting home from work, my phone buzzed. This time, it wasn't just another half-hearted apology. It was a wall of text, frantic and desperate. She said her ex had stopped answering her calls, that he blocked her on everything, that she'd thought there was still something between them, but he'd only stuck around for the celebration and then ghosted her. She even had the nerve to say, "I should have just focused on us. You were always the stable one. You wouldn't do this to me." Reading that, I felt something I hadn't felt since the whole mess began. Because finally, she was seeing the truth. The guy she had thrown me aside for, the one she told me not to worry about, the one she'd humiliated me over, didn't want her. And now, in the silence I'd left behind, she had no safety net to fall back on. Still, I didn't reply. I just put my phone down, made dinner, and went on with my night. But her messages didn't stop. They only got more desperate. "Emily, please, I need you. Emily, I don't have anyone else right now. Emily, you don't get it. I can't pay rent alone. I thought he'd help me out, but he just disappeared." And that was when it clicked. She didn't want me. She wanted the security I'd provided, the bills I'd quietly covered, the support I'd given without question. She hadn't chosen me when it mattered. But now that her backup plan had cut her loose, suddenly she needed me again. I set the phone down, leaned back, and let out a long breath. For once, I wasn't the one begging for scraps of attention. I wasn't the one humiliated. This time, she was, and she still had no idea that the silence she hated most was going to stretch far longer than she could ever imagine. By the end of the month, the mask had completely slipped. Her texts had gone from smug to pleading to flat-out panicked. "Emily, I don't know what to do. Emily, my parents won't cover rent again. They said I'm an adult now and need to figure it out myself. Emily, please, can we just meet? Just talk. I'll do anything." I stared at those words, remembering the way she dismissed me before graduation, how she hadn't even considered that my feelings mattered, and now she was dangling "I'll do anything," like it was some bargaining chip to buy back the comfort she'd thrown away. The part that struck me most wasn't the desperation. It was how transactional it sounded. Not love, not remorse, just survival. I didn't respond, but I didn't have to. Mutual friends filled me in. Emily had shown up at her parents' place in tears after her ex blocked her everywhere. They weren't sympathetic. Her dad apparently told her, "You had a good man already, and you blew it. We're not bailing you out of this mess." She'd been venting online, too. The same Instagram feed where she used to post polished photos and braggy captions was now full of vague, bitter quotes about fake people and learning who your real friends are. It didn't take long before the comment section turned against her. Someone asked where her boyfriend, me, had been during her graduation, and she snapped back with a rant about how I was too insecure to support her. Another person replied, "Didn't you leave him for your ex, though?" The thread went dead silent after that. The truth was out. Meanwhile, I was doing fine. Better than fine, honestly. I'd gotten a promotion at work. I was finally catching up on sleep, and I wasn't carrying the weight of someone else's chaos anymore. My apartment was quiet. peaceful. It hit me one night, sitting in that silence, how different our lives had become in just a few weeks. She was scrambling, burning through every bridge she had, begging anyone who would listen to save her from the consequences she'd created. And me, I was free. Still, part of me knew this wasn't the end of it. Emily wasn't the type to accept being ignored. She was going to push harder, try new angles, maybe even show up in person. The thing is, it wouldn't matter, because I wasn't that guy anymore. The one she could manipulate with tears or guilt. She'd chosen her path. And now, she had to walk it alone. I should have known she wouldn't stay behind a screen forever. One Saturday morning, there was a knock at my apartment door. I wasn't expecting anyone. So when I opened it and saw Emily standing there, puffy eyes, messy hair, clothes that looked slept in, I just froze for a second. She gave me this brittle smile, like she was trying to pretend everything was fine. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. I didn't move. "Emily, this isn't a good idea. Please," she said, stepping forward like she might push her way in. "Just 5 minutes. I need you to hear me out." I let her in, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't want to make a scene in front of my neighbors. She shuffled inside, wringing her hands, her eyes darting around my apartment like she was checking to see if another girl lived there. "I messed up," she blurted out before I could say anything. "Okay, I was stupid. I thought reconnecting with Matt would feel right, but it didn't. He just wanted to hook up. And then he blocked me. He didn't care about me at all." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, silent. She kept going, her voice trembling now. "I realize now that you're the one who cared. You're the one who showed up for me, who supported me. I threw it away, and I don't know why. But maybe we could try again. Start over." Her eyes were wet, her breathing shaky. It was the most vulnerable I'd ever seen her. But all I could think about was her smug voice before graduation. "Don't come. It'll be awkward with my ex there." I shook my head. "Emily, no. You made your choice." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "So that's it. After everything we had, you're just done. You ended things when you replaced me before I was even out the door," I said evenly. "You don't get to circle back just because he tossed you aside." Her face twisted, anger bubbling through the desperation. "You think you're so much better now, huh? You think you're untouchable? Well, don't forget who made you into anything. Without me, you're nothing." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I stood there for a moment, the silence rushing back. But this time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt like peace. The final time I saw Emily was a few weeks later, and it wasn't planned. A mutual friend invited me to a small get-together. I almost didn't go, but I figured it would be nice to catch up. When I arrived, I realized too late she was there too, sitting off to the side with a drink in her hand. She looked different, not in a good way. Thinner, tired, worn down. The kind of look that comes from too many sleepless nights and too many bad decisions. When she spotted me, her whole face lit up like I was her lifeline. She rushed over before I could even say hello to anyone else. "Can we talk?" she begged. I sighed. "Emily, no. Just listen," she pleaded, grabbing my arm. "I've been thinking so much. I know I screwed everything up, but we can fix this. We can be us again. I've learned my lesson. I'll never take you for granted again." Her voice cracked. She was trembling. People nearby were starting to watch. I gently pulled my arm back. "Emily, stop." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean, stop? Don't you remember what we had?" "I do," I said calmly. "I remember giving you everything I had, and you throwing it away the second someone else came along. I remember you telling me not to come to my own girlfriend's graduation because your ex would be there. And I remember being treated like an afterthought." She blinked rapidly, her mouth opening and closing. but no words came. I went on, keeping my voice even. And now I don't feel anger. I don't feel hurt. I don't even feel pity. I just don't feel anything for you anymore. You're not part of my life, and I'm not interested in going back. The room was quiet. People had definitely heard. Her face flushed red, her jaw tight. "You'll regret this," she spat. But it sounded hollow, like even she didn't believe it. I just shook my head. "No, Emily. I already regretted wasting as much time as I did. Not anymore." The weight finally gone for good. Behind me, she didn't follow. And that's when I realized the chapter was truly closed. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.